This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
From north, south, east, and west, North America, Japan, and back again, this is your home for modern-day wrestling. With the occasional trip back in time, it's Place to Be Nation's main event. Now let's head into Studio B with your host, Scott Criscolo, and the Godfather, Nate Milton.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to your warm home for everything modern-day wrestling, because it's not warm anywhere else. Place to Be Nation's main event. I am your co-host, Scott Criscolo. Episode 119, which is what it is below zero in Appleton, Wisconsin. And look, I walked outside my house right now, and it's like 10, and I think I'd kill myself. So I don't even know how this guy's surviving. We'll get to him in a minute. Great show coming up tonight, as always. We are beyond what was a fun weekend in the city of Phoenix, Arizona. Saturday night, the NXT Takeover, and of course the Royal Rumble, which was 119 hours, it felt like, when it finally ended. And but then other things have happened in wrestling. So we got a very busy A block talking about what's going on around the world. And then in the B block, we have our most newest installment of the New Japan Classic Match Pick. And these picks, though not classic in the general sense of the word, historic most definitely. And this guy picked him out. Let me bring in my co-host. I don't know how cold he is right now, but he's never, because he's as cool as the other side of the pillow. The Godfather, Nate Milton.
What's going on, Brother Scotty? And in the wise words of great American poet Rick James, there's no dictionary book to explain how you look because you're so cold-blooded.
Did he write that in jail? No.
I don't think he wrote it in jail, but he definitely wrote it on something.
Yes.
No, it is a balmy 37 degrees by comparison.
Oh, my God.
Virginia.
Wow. Holy cow. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, 37 is not crazy. It is 10 here in the state of Connecticut. Thinking back, by the way, Brother Nate, of some classic 19s, of course, maybe one of the greatest 19s of all time, the Hall of Fame quarterback for the Colts, Johnny Unitas, Johnny U, who probably played in a lot of 10-degree games in his career down in Baltimore. This is from my man, Mr. J. Arsenio D'Amato, the great Willis Reed, Hall of Famer with the New York Knicks, was number 19. Joe Montana, in his 2 years with Kansas City, he wore 19. Let me think. Are they under 19s? Any other good quarterbacks?
Let's say Montana and Unitas are the two that come to mind when I think of 19. Because I'm a big Joe Montana in Kansas City stan. Even though he didn't win a title there, to me that cements his legacy as no worse than the second best quarterback of all time. And again, no shade on your man Tom Brady playing this weekend, but you can devise a reasonable argument to still put Montana as the number one quarterback.
Oh, I agree.
It's not that far-fetched.
No, I agree. Look, four games, 4 wins. These are my three things: 4 games, 4 wins, no picks. End of story.
I got one of my favorite players. Actually, he wasn't one of my favorite players, but just a player I always kind of admired. Because I've got a thing for people that play racially atypical positions, such as black quarterbacks in the 80s, white wide receivers in the 80s. And we can't talk about white wide receivers without talking about my man Lance Allsworth.
Bambi.
For the San Diego Chargers, Superchargers.
He did win a ring with the Cowboys, actually.
Yep.
He won a ring with the Cowboys. Yep.
But I want to keep the San Diego theme going, Scotty.
Okay.
Because my favorite number 19 of all time is maybe the best hitter I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yes.
The late, great Tony Gwynn.
Absolutely. He might be the best 19 of the bunch. What can you say? A myriad of batting titles. He almost hit 400. 2 World Series, sadly lost to 2 really great.
That was the strike year, right? When he was about to hit 400?
Yes, he was hitting 3. Oh, shit. 392, I think, when the strike happened.
Yep.
Two shitty things didn't. Two great things didn't happen that year. The Expos winning the World Series and Tony Gwynn hitting 400 did not happen because of the strike. I know Yankee fans will complain about that, but too bad. I know a guy who is envious of a number 19 because I know another great number 19. He's currently the general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning, but he was a Hall of Fame goal scorer for the Detroit Red Wings, that being Steve Yzerman. And this gentleman, who I know as a diehard Blackhawks fan, probably had nightmares throughout his childhood about Stevie Y. Let me bring in a guy who is as warm as your heart, even though he is in a place is as cold as hell. Is there a place cold as hell? If hell was cold, it'd be where he's living right now. The conscience of Place to Be Nation, Steve Wille.
I have been sitting on so many puns since you guys started talking. I was just begging for you to come on. I was gonna be like, Rick James, it's super freaking cold out here. I was like, racial positions. Like, I mean, the whitest man on the whitest ice and the whitest sport and on the whitest, Steve Yzerman right there, number 19. But hey, right. It is always a hot one when I am with you guys, and I'm happy to be inside the nice warm house.
What is it officially right now where you are?
At this very moment, it's -13 with -35 wind chill. It was, I believe, -19 or -20 with a -49 wind chill this morning. And it's going to be even colder tonight. Oof. And it's going to be 42, as I was telling you guys on Sunday. So a 62-degree turnaround in 3 days.
Well, I was telling you guys off mic before we started. I fired up my old Xbox 360. I do have an Xbox One, but I fired up the old 360 because one of my favorite games ever that has not been backwards compatible yet is NCAA Football 2014, which was the last game they did. For those that are game junkies, it's the one that had Denard Robinson from Michigan on the front. And when you play online, wherever you're playing a home game, the Weather Channel, like it has a program where the Weather Channel will give you the live weather from wherever you're playing in, and we'll put it into the game. So I said, fuck it. I'm just going to make up a game and play it at old Camp Randall in Madison, which is how far away from Camp Randall, Steve?
2 hours, almost on the nose.
That's not bad. Because I wanted to see what the Weather Channel had for game time temperature in this game that I'm playing right now. Or I have it paused now, but it said 18 below. It literally said -18. There's no snow on the ground, but it actually has breath showing. So that's actually pretty cool. So, any event, let's all stay warm, boys.
That was one of the coolest things when, and I think PlayStation 2, Scotty, might have been the first console to do it, when the game would actually recognize events, whether it be a certain day, like if you played NBA 2K on Christmas Day, the announcers would be like, "Happy holidays, folks! We're here at the Great Western Forum." I don't know why.
No, you're right.
We're at the Great Western Forum, but let's just go with it. But yeah, and then they did the weather stuff, like stuff like that was so cool that I think people that game now, like these young whippersnappers like Xavier Woods, just kind of take for granted.
Exactly. I agree 100%.
The Xavier Woodses and the Kenny Omegas of the world who just take these modern delicacies for granted.
I agree with you 100%. And by the way, some of us Laker fans do miss the Great Western Forum because one thing we hate doing is sharing of space with the fucking Clippers. In any event, probably because they've had more playoff games well, I shouldn't say that because the Lakers have won 5 rings in that building. So anyway, which by the way is 5 more than the Clippers. So we got a busy show, guys. It's red hot in pro wrestling, even though it's cold everywhere else. Of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are removed from the big weekend in Phoenix. And no, we're not talking about the Suns, who are on the road. I think they're actually playing the Lakers on the road Sunday. Coincidentally, Nate, as you mentioned before him. We had a great takeover on Saturday night. I did not have a chance to watch it yet, so I'll rely on you guys for that. I did watch the Royal Rumble. I'm sure we all did. Nate, great reaction show. A great show. Debut of your new new reaction show you do. You can get more into that a little bit later. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then obviously over the last 72 hours, a lot of news has broken about guys that are leaving WWE, which opens up things. I mean, we talked about it briefly a lot over the last few shows. This All Elite thing is real. There's no doubt about it. It's not fake. and we'll get more into that too. And then, as I mentioned in the B block, Brother Nate picked a couple of outstanding New Japan Classic match picks regarding a guy that is involved with All Elite Wrestling. So we'll get to that in the B block. Let's talk about Saturday night, NXT Takeover Phoenix. From what I heard, it was a pretty awesome show. For those that didn't see it, here were the results. We had 2 title changes. The War Raiders are your new NXT Tag Team Champions as they defeated the Undisputed Era. Matt Riddle defeated Cassius Ohno, who also might be starting some news. Johnny Gargano is your new North American Heavyweight title. He beat Ricochet in a almost 23.5-minute match. Shayna Baszler retained the women's title with a win over Bianca Belair. And Tommaso Ciampa is still your NXT champion as he beat Aleister Black. And then at the end, there was a gigantic brawl on the stage, and then went into the back locker room, or went into the gorilla position, I guess, between Black, Ricochet, Velveteen Dream, Gargano, Ciampa, and Adam Cole. And that leads us to a historic event happening this Sunday, which we'll get to in a second. Nate, your general thoughts on TakeOver?
Well, the parts of TakeOver that I saw, because I was laid up pretty much most of last week battling back injuries. So I doubled up on the meds Saturday night because I knew I had to be in good condition to watch the Rumble the next night, right? To cover that for the podcast. So I missed a lot of Saturday night, and then I went back and watched the matches that were of the most interest to me, and of course that being Ricochet Johnny, the women's match, and the main event.
Okay. Steve, what did you catch?
We saw it all.
Okay.
You guys caught a few weeks ago, my son and I did a
yes.
review of the NXT for 2018. So it was my youngest's birthday on Saturday. So
awesome.
Had his party, came home, watched the whole pay-per-view. We got to stay up a little late. So we actually watched the entire thing, which is a rarity for me to watch a pay-per-view live. And we got to I got to watch Royal Rumble on Sunday. So a very heavy, intensive WWE weekend for me. I thought it was great. Not maybe up to the standards of other NXTs, but that's a high bar to set. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they did some weird things, I think, with the styles of some of the matches, like Ciampa and Blackwell, which I really enjoyed. It was a little bit jarring to see them do almost an old-fashioned work the leg for 10 minutes with very cool spots after you've had, a 23-minute Gargano and Ricochet match with all the accoutrements. My favorite match of the weekend was the opener between Undisputed Era and War Raiders, because those guys just know each other so well. And just a huge hot crowd for that, like a 50-50 split. Really, the fans like both teams. So both teams just brought out all the stops for that one. So I really enjoyed that one. And it gave Bianca Belair a chance to shine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In that women's match, I don't think she had been on a proper takeover to this point. She had been on a pre-show, like a tapings, and I was a little concerned how she would respond, and I thought she did a great job.
I feel like the new dynamic with Gargano and Ciampa, who obviously both great baby faces when they were DIY, one of the greatest blood feuds that we've seen, and now all of a sudden they're pretty good dynamic heels. Steve, I think that's just chemistry between these two guys as being that good.
Yeah, I think so too. They just know each other very well, and they've really done an excellent job of building this feud and friendship and this storyline over the last couple of years. They played Tommaso Ciampa, as Aleister Black has said, as kind of the puppet master, playing around with Gargano's emotions, and there's still this mistrust between the two of them that they get across really well on the screen, even in that final scene before the cameras went off, where Gargano's just kind of eyeing him up like, yeah, we're together. and this is like a good plan, but yeah, I'm ready for you to stab me in the back, and even where they did it was the exact same spot where Ciampa turned on Gargano after the show went off the air last year, when he turned around and threw him into the video stage, or the video wall. So it was almost setting that up, like Gargano was going to do it to him. I didn't like the, you talked about the halftime heat that we're going to do during the Super Bowl. I didn't like the setup to that. I was glad it wasn't on the show proper, because it just didn't make sense, the teams. Like, right. Adam Cole has no reason to be with Gargano and Ciampa at all. There's no reason for that. Velveteen and Aleister Black were just fighting a few months ago. So it was just like, it felt kind of thrown together just to do the gimmick. But it's going to be just a standalone match. So I understand what they're doing. It just felt a little bit out of place.
It did feel out of place. Just to clarify what Steve was saying, this Sunday, I don't know how they're going to do it. Are someone at the network going to fire? I don't even know how this is working. Is it on the network? Are they just going to fire it off? I'll have to talk to people at my building, because maybe it'll be fired off in my building.
It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be on the network. It's going to be on all their social media. They're planning on doing it live, and I've heard that they're going to do it at the Performance Center, which is intriguing. Like,
that is very intriguing. Almost like it's almost like it is the 20-year anniversary. Maybe that's why they're doing it, because it is 20 years since the last halftime heat, which took place at halftime of the Super Bowl game between the Broncos and the Falcons. The empty arena match between The Rock and Mankind for the WWF title, won by Mankind when he dropped a pallet of like 50 kegs of Coors on top of the champion. So it is pretty cool that they are hearkening back to that. But for those that don't know, it's a 6-man tag match between the aforementioned guys we've talked about: Aleister Black, Ricochet, and Velveteen Dream on one side, and Johnny Gargano, Ciampa, and Adam Cole on the other side. Now, I want to talk about something before we move on to Sunday. I want to talk about a topic that always seems to come up after every takeover, and that is when guys lose, is it time for them to leave? And I know that Triple H, I think Vince is more guilty of this, obviously, than Triple H is, but I know he doesn't want to treat NXT as like high school, and Raw and SmackDown is college. Like, oh, you're graduating from, middle level and now you're going to the big time. And I know they're trying to do their best to not do that anymore. Obviously, the one guy that everyone thinks will be next is Aleister Black. He did show up the next night at the Rumble, but we've had guys show up at the Rumble and then just go right back to NXT. Obviously, the one guy that everyone thinks will be next is Aleister Black. He did show up the next night at the Rumble, but we've had guys show up at the Rumble and then just go right back to NXT.
I thought it was a solid show. Like Steve was saying, there was nothing bad on the show. I don't know if it exceeded to the heights of some of the great Royal Rumble cards we've seen in the past. As a matter of fact, I think I might have liked both Rumble matches last year better than both Rumble matches this year. But that's not to say they weren't good. The men's Rumble match, I enjoyed more start to finish than the women's match, which I did think was probably about 20 minutes too long, Steve. But that finish of the women's match kind of made up for the length of it. I thought that, even the stuff that I didn't like I wasn't a big fan of the Shane Miz tag match. I thought Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles kind of underwhelmed, even though it was a solid match. And the Sasha and Ronda match, I really liked the finish of the match. The first 5 minutes or so didn't quite do it for me, but I thought they got the ship straightened out when it was time to take it home. So overall, I think I gave it a 7 out of 10 on the Chain Reaction podcast. So it was a really good show. Exceeded my expectations because I was not too enthusiastic heading into it. Not one of the all-time great Rumbles, but certainly not something to tear down either. I thought it was just, really good wrestling.
I can't compare with that because I was there last year in Philly, and the live moments for both Asuka and Knock were off the charts. Yeah. So I can't compare. I can't fairly compare because I was there. The problem with the Women's Rumble was not who won, because we all love Becky because she's great. She's the man. But the problem was it was very imbalanced. Like, we had, other than like Charlotte and maybe Natalya, the first 18 women in the Rumble were kind of rough. Probably up until, I would say, probably the first 20. Charlotte came in at 13, and that was fine.
Yeah.
But we had some holes. The one that stands out, and I hate to rip on her because she was in for almost half an hour, and I know she was busting her ass. And maybe I'm in the minority of this, but Lacey Evans is not ready for prime time. She is not ready for prime time. She is beautiful, and she's in good shape, and I think she's got the makings of something great, but she looked horrendous in the beginning. And when you have Natalya too, and we make fun of Natalya, and I hate cats, but she's a great worker. We can never discount that about Natalya. But when Natalya can't make you look halfway decent, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to Lacey Evans. She should not have been number one. You know who I would have put at number one? And you guys might think I'm nuts. Maybe because I'm absolutely in love with her and I have no problems admitting that. Rhea Ripley. I love her. She's like a hot diesel. Because she literally stands there. She gets it.
So just regular diesel then?
It's like, of course, yeah. She's really big, sexy. I'll get to her.
Kevin Nash will always have better hair, just in case he's listening.
Better hair, less work rate. But anyway, she won't pop her quad on a boot to the head. Your thoughts, Nate, on Lacey? She's got a good gimmick.
Yeah.
She's a good talker. She's got like the ancillary stuff, but she's green as fucking turf.
And I'm not going to take credit for this because it was I believe it was Wei Ting over on Post Wrestling who said this. Mm-hmm. She's like the female equivalent to Elias. Like, gimmick that has a ton of potential. And she's got she's got, I won't go as far as to say a lot of charisma, but she's got a good deal of charisma.
Mm-hmm. She does.
But the in-ring work is not up to par. And I think the problem in the Rumble was she was going for a few spots that were just a bit out of her reach in terms of her athleticism. And they didn't work. And so because they didn't work, the crowd, it was harder and harder for it to get behind. But there were moments where I thought she was really good. You know, that first kind of stare down with her and Charlotte. I thought that was a good little moment for her. So there's something there with Lacey. I just wouldn't try to have her out there, you know, in 10, 15-minute matches right off the bat. Like, they got to position her smart, or she'll just become another Dana Brooke.
Steve,
they didn't do any favors.
No,
they didn't.
She, I was just mentioning Bianca Belair during the Takeover special. Lacey Evans has really not been on much besides some, TV matches and like a pre-show. And then they're throwing her out in the Royal Rumble in front of an entire baseball stadium filled with fans at number one with a microphone in her hand, cutting a promo. That's insane that they wanted her to do that. And it, so she started on that, and then being in the match for that long, and trying to pull off big spots right off the bat. But then also when the ring got crowded, I did like the Charlotte stare down too, though, Nate, like you said, especially since they're similar size, and we're able to, Charlotte's generally bigger than most of the people on the roster, so be able to stand eye to eye with someone. Although the Kairi Sane and Charlotte stare off was a little bit rated higher for me, because that was pretty sweet.
Charlotte, and again, Becky gets a lot of credit for how good that turned out, the last little bit of the Rumble. But Charlotte, to me, might have been the MVP. Mm-hmm. Just with her character work and also keeping that thing together, especially in the early going, like Scotty was talking about, when you had a lot of green girls other than Natalya in the ring with her, and so like that was kind of my big problem with the first 20, 25 minutes of the Women's Rumble. It was a lot of mismatched workers, and then when you had somebody really good come in like an Ember Moon, they didn't really let them do much.
Yeah, There are a few negatives. There are a lot of positives too, but like the problem I had with the ending is that it felt like kind of telegraphed when Lana got injured. Mm-hmm. Like it felt like that was where they were going because a lot of people talked about, our buddy JT talked about like, yeah, Becky's going to win the Rumble. And first I'm like, she's not, she's got a title match. Are you even watching the programs? Like, what do you mean she's going to win? Yeah, okay. Yep. So, once
to be
that
fair,
happens,
though, Steve, I was going to say, to be fair, I think they kind of telegraphed what was going to happen when they made her and Asuka the first match of the night.
Yep, They always do that. It was like when what Rumble was it? It was like the example that I always think of, Nate, with that one is the New Year's Revolution 06 when Edge kind of fucked his way through that match with Flair. And then you forgot about the briefcase at the end of the Cena chamber.
Yep.
So anytime a scenario like that is rumored, that's the first thing I look for now. So you're right on about that, in my opinion, about match slot when you think of somebody coming back. So anyway. I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, the gap was huge, and there was a shit ton of NXT women in this Rumble. You had
Zealy.
Yeah, thanks.
Not ever on television for NXT.
Wait,
that's NXT Zealy. I'm like, no, that's not NXT Zealy.
That's Paulina from Tough Enough.
It's like she may be on the roster, like going around the loop in Fort Largo or whatever.
Yeah. Key Largo. You had Kairi Sane.
Yep.
You had Candice LeRae. You had, or in other words, Mrs. Gargano. You had Casey Catanzaro, or in other words, Mrs. Shea. Rico.
No, that's not Ricochet's girl.
Somebody told me it was. It's not, right? Isn't it? What's her face?
It was Tessa.
It was Tessa. No, it is Casey now, I think. Right? Didn't they hug backstage?
Well, now this is like wrestling soap opera now.
I mean, you thought his name was Ricochet because of the way he moved in the ring, but it's actually the way he bounces around from partner to partner.
So Tessa isn't the one and only.
That's what somebody told me. That actually it was Johnny Reckless that told me, because I was watching it with him on Sunday, and he told me that this woman's with Ricochet now. And,
I don't know if they're together.
Tessa.
I do know him and Tessa are no longer a thing.
Yeah.
And I did see a picture with the two of them together, but I was, oh man, Casey, homewrecker.
I know, right? She flipped her way right into that.
Yeah, but I do want to say that I had very few hopes for her when she signed with WWE. Where we watch Ninja Warrior as a family, and if you want to complain about someone like Roman Reigns being shoved down your throat, like what they did with Casey Catanzaro was about 10 times worse. They show the exact same scene several times a season for about 8 seasons. I thought she did excellent there. If I'm complaining about Lacey Evans coming up and in a big baseball stadium, 40-something thousand people in her first big match and blowing it, like she did a lot of really difficult spots.
She did.
And looked perfect. And yet, Naomi, they poor Naomi, she's up there like doing the Kofi Kingston spot on the balances, the barricade, and then Casey made her just look bad because she was falling all over the place, and Casey did like this perfect handstand maneuver, and everything she did was crisp, and that will be interesting to see what happens when she comes up on NXT onto TV, because as someone who's legitimately 5 feet tall, I just didn't think she was going to fit in anywhere, but she proved me wrong in the Rumble. I was impressed.
Yeah, no, I was too. For the first time in a while, I was impressed with your girl there, Nate. I was actually very impressed with how Nia Jax was booked. I liked it. She was booked the way she should be booked. Enough of the pissing and whining and weird faces. Just be the Big Show. And that's really what she came off as on Sunday. I was very impressed. She and I have to say, her outfit was much more revealing than I thought. I mean, what if those like leg tights split her? Never
What if indeed?
What if indeed? Chain reaction would have been 2 hours and 44 minutes.
Been about 5 to 7 minutes.
Well, like Freddie said in Bohemian Rhapsody, your wife must not be that impressed if you think 7 minutes is long. Yeah, I have to say, Nate, I was impressed. She was booked the way she needed to be booked. She wasn't annoying. She wasn't acting weird. She came off as a bona fide star again. I think in my opinion, I feel like she redeemed herself.
Yeah, they did a really good job of positioning her both in the Women's Rumble and in the Men's Rumble, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I thought that they did the right thing in terms of showcasing what makes her different. What makes her quote unquote not like most girls. Don't try to have her in there doing the same thing as a Natalya or doing the same thing as Ruby Riott. Have her go out there and play to her strengths. Literally. And so I thought that she looked really, really good in the Women's Rumble. And the way that they got rid of her, but then she came back and was a bit of a factor in the final two with Becky and Charlotte. So we've still kind of got that Nia Jax, Becky Lynch thing that's still hanging out there that we could pull that card somewhere down the line. I thought that was smart booking.
What'd you think of Nia, Steve?
I thought it was interesting the way they booked her. There was a point at the end where I wondered, like, hey, are they actually going to do something and trick everyone with Nia coming out on top? Because, they've had a tendency of going against the grain with these things lately. I think that she has kind of faltered, not through her own doing, since that whole Becky Lynch incident, which just seemed ludicrous, because that's just at that point, just drop your plans and go with that, because that's a hot angle that you can pull off with basically the man killer. But yeah, she just goes up and down so much. I don't get the knocks on her from fans that much, possibly just because she hurt Becky Lynch. She's got a tremendous amount of potential. She has a tremendous amount of talent. She doesn't look like anybody in the roster, which makes her unique, makes her stand out. So, why not do more with her? And instead of, put her with Tamina.
Speaking of Tamina.
How is she getting a spot?
What the fuck? There's only one person that moves better, that moves equally as good as her, and that's Boris Karloff. She looked like Frankenstein. She's like not bending her knees, and she can't take a bump, and she was a fucking mess.
And then saying she moves like Phil Jackson.
Yes, exactly.
And then they have her doing the superfly splash still. After we've pretty much known that her dad's a murderer.
I know exactly. It's dreadful. She's terrible.
It would be like someone putting on the crossface, which what they've done, but then calling it the crippler crossface.
Yeah, it's dreadful. If they need to start thinning the women's herd, they should start with her.
You know why she's there, Steve. She's got those family ties.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think Sim Snuka has a better rep right now.
Poor Deuce. Deuce? Was he Deuce or Domino?
He was Deuce. He was Deuce. The other guy was
Domino.
Yeah, and then he dropped a deuce when he almost killed Taker at WrestleMania.
That was a hell of a gimmick. We're in the year, what was it, 2006, 2007?
2006, yeah.
They're like, let's have a team that thinks they're from the 50s because Techno Team 2000 worked so well. Let's do it in reverse.
But they had Cherry. Cherry. So, all in all, though, the Women's Rumble was fine. Nikki Cross looked good. I love Billy. I love the Iconics. They're awesome. For the most part, everybody worked fairly well, except there was just a spot in the middle where things were a little thin.
And it didn't seem like, it felt like the Men's Rumble, it felt like they had it more plotted out.
Right.
Whereas with the women, it felt like a lot of times, except for, somebody like a Charlotte, they were just kind of doing what they think I should be doing at this moment, even if it doesn't tie into what everybody else is doing.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. What do you think of that theory, Steve?
Man, I wonder who booked these. Back in the day, you had Pat Patterson, well known that he did that and had great ideas with putting together finishes. Men's felt more put together, and you had a lot more guys with experience that were out there.
Yeah.
But it also felt rushed at times compared to the females. Like there were a lot, and actually someone who was there just noticed it as well and started timing some of the entrances, and they were pushing some of them in the middle down closer to a minute. It was like we have our spots planned out between, say, number 16 and 17. Yeah. Let's do them, and let's hit the buzzer, and let's go. Mm-hmm. And they obviously knew that the show was running way too long at that point. But just the discrepancy between the 53 or 57 minutes you said that the men's and the 73 minutes that the women's match was, I mean, that kind of shows the differences in how they were laid out. Like that is way too long for a Rumble, and that's the proof right there that some of the match dragged.
Right.
And even after 30 was in, even then there was still a fairly long segment to end it.
Yeah, when Carmella came in, there was still like 11 women in the ring. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of women left. Yeah, it definitely lagged at the end. There was no need for it, but and that needs to be tightened up. It definitely didn't have that same sizzle that last year did.
Yeah. And I don't care if a match is 73 minutes if it keeps my attention most of the time.
Exactly. But Becky Lynch wins, and it is hanging in the air, apparently, yet. It hasn't totally been official yet, whether it will be her and Ronda on April 7th at MetLife. There will be a match at MetLife that has been set in stone from the Men's Rumble, and that is that Mr. Seth Rollins, the first guy to ever come in at 10 and win, will definitely face Brock Lesnar on April 7th at MetLife. The Men's Rumble didn't have as many outsiders. There were 3 NXT guys, Gargano, Aleister Black, and the NXT UK champion, the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne, who ended up getting eliminated, ironically, by the Scottish guy, Drew McIntyre. So the Scottish guy dumped the British guy.
Yeah, that was his Brexit. All right, that's Brexit. It. I'm done. Thanks for letting me on tonight, guys.
By the way, Johnny Gargano was eliminated by Dean Ambrose. How about that for an insult? We'll get to Dean in a minute. No surprise, Seth winning. He's probably the hottest mid-card guy at the moment. The flow of the match was fine. The Rumble matches as a whole was fine. The problem was the fucking thing started at 10:48. That was the problem.
Yep.
I literally walked out of my buddy's house at 2 of midnight. Shit. As a Rumble, Steve, what were your thoughts, and did anything stand out for you?
It was okay. It wasn't like anything for me to write home about. I don't think it's going to be one, 2-3 years from now I'm going to remember in any way. Rumbles are always special to me in some way or another. So the fact that I'm not, this is my favorite pay-per-view. I don't even think I said that yet today. I like Rumble more than WrestleMania. It's just like, there might not be these days much in question with who's going to win. Going into each show, there's, each Rumble, there's maybe 1 or 2 people that will probably win. But like I said earlier, the surprise factor and, who's going to get a big push out of this and who's going to come in that's new. And, in AJ Styles a few years ago, one of the best moments in Royal Rumble history, in my opinion, him coming in. What's going to happen on that end? And this one was just kind of a go through the motions match, for me. And maybe it was because I'm just tired after that long of a show. But I still don't like Aleister. I thought did really well. I don't think Gargano really did anything to set himself apart compared to, say, the women in the NXT roster. So nothing really big there. Yeah, it's just not. I didn't really think that it was ever in doubt either. Scott, like with Seth Rollins winning, some people have been talking about Drew McIntyre, but I've kind of said this since And granted, I don't know watch Raw really, so I don't know how much they're pushing him, but Drew McIntyre, WrestleMania main event player, just doesn't register.
Not yet. Not yet.
No, maybe at some point it will, but I don't think, I can't imagine many people thinking that he's ready to main event or sell a pay-per-view or sell network subscriptions at this point.
He needs, and I know we've mentioned this guy multiple times tonight. He kind of needs a Diesel Rumble 94 kind of thing, and he hasn't gotten that yet. We're just giving him he's a big dude. I've always liked Drew McIntyre. I liked him the first time around.
Yeah, I have nothing against him at all.
But you're right. He's not a needle mover just yet.
He's been roiled in a feud and a tag team with Dolph Ziggler.
Yep, that's it.
And that's going to be your guy who ends up, going to the Mania. So yeah, it was. I couldn't really see anyone from SmackDown winning either.
No.
SmackDown needs to be tinkered with a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we need a opponent for Daniel Bryan. The Rumble overall was fine. The show itself, Brock won. So what I was referring to earlier was, and this has happened multiple times, after Brock's win over Finn Balor, Brock went in and threw the Universal belt at Vince again and left. Apparently Brock is getting to the point now, he doesn't want to do this anymore. We talk about all the paychecks and everything, but apparently he legitimately does not want to do this anymore. I don't want to be Universal Champion. I'm tired of matches. You have a bunch of guys here that should be champion. Why do you keep giving it to me? And I think the answer is very simple. And this is probably a smaller example of a more general problem. Vince has the company on hold. He is waiting and waiting and waiting for Roman Reigns. He is praying that chemo's working, that fluid is flying through those veins, cleaning that blood up, and he's coming back and saving the day. And that's what it is. The entire creative aspect of the company is on standby on the runway because they're waiting for him. And that's why he just gave the belt back to Brock, because there's nothing else. He doesn't want to advance anybody else until he makes sure that Roman gets advanced. That's what I think, and I feel like that's the evidence, is that he keeps giving it to Brock and he keeps giving it to Brock. And at this point, the whole bullying guy, nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares. It was one thing 3 years ago. Nobody cares now.
Yeah.
Am I off base here, Nate?
If it were me, and I think there is some credence to the Roman contingency plan, if you will, which is silly, because you should go ahead and have the show evolve and ebb and flow and elevate a Braun when you need to, elevate a Drew when you need to, elevate Seth when you need to. And then whenever Roman comes back, if he's able to come back, you can work your storyline around that. But
it's not like the guy broke his leg. He has cancer.
Right. So, you have to be realistic with the situation and say, okay, this is what's going on with Roman. We hope the best for him, but the show must go on, as they say. And so if I were Vince, I would have Brock drop the belt to Seth at WrestleMania, and then I wouldn't have Brock back on again if he decides to resign. I wouldn't have Brock back on again until the Fox show.
Yep, that's fine.
That's because I think there's not only is Lesnar probably fatigued at this point, but I think the audience is fatigued with him.
Yes, I agree.
And there's only so much Paul Heyman can do. We all know Paul Heyman's great. Yeah. Arguably one of the greatest managers, greatest promos of all time, at least in our generation. Mm-hmm. But there's only so much he can do to get us invested in feuds where we know that it's an 80 to 90% chance Brock's going to win the feud.
Right.
And so I think it'd be best for Brock, it'd be best for the audience, and it'd be best for the company to take a break from that. And if Seth is the guy, let's elevate Seth, and you can have him feud with Drew and have him feud with Braun or whoever, and then we'll bring Brock back in October. We'll call it Brocktober. We can make a big event about it. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense, and so that's why, while I enjoyed the Finn match, we knew how that was going to end. And like I really haven't enjoyed any of this Lesnar comeback outside of the Bill Goldberg match. Like that's the last time I was really invested in a Brock Lesnar feud on this version of Brock's WWE run. So yeah, I think it'd be best for Brock and best for the fans if we were able to take a break for a while.
What do you think, Steve? Am I off base?
Well, if I can indulge in some Steve fantasy booking, which I know will never happen, I love the Brock Finn match. I thought, and I had read before the match that one of the reasons that took place was that Brock specifically requested to do a match with Balor, and going through the run-up that 1 week, you could tell that Paul Heyman and Brock had some respect for Finn Balor. I know they kind of did that respect thing, I think, with Kevin Owens as well, but this was a little different. And the sheer amount of selling that Brock did in that match for Finn, look back at this last couple of years, there was most of his matches, even with like Roman and Braun, there was like a lot of no-selling stuff, a lot of stiff shots. I felt that Brock took care of Finn. He, couldn't get the F5 on him during the match. Whereas in the other matches, he's thrown like 5, 6, 7 of them in. Yeah. And then really, selling, his kidney or his groin or whatever like that, and just letting Finn beat the tar out of him, which was shocking. The next step for me is obvious. I don't think I'm probably the only person saying that, but put, Finn in the Demon outfit again. And in February, have him beat Brock. He hasn't lost in that outfit. He came, just seconds away. He actually got the first 2 count on Brock, which is unheard of. Mm-hmm. It just seems like an easy storyline. And then you can go one of 2 ways. You can have, if you don't want to do that at Mania, which, I think that would be a great idea to do that at Mania. Well, then you have Finn versus Seth, which is the rematch from the original Universal title match where Seth injured him. You could do that, or you can just have Seth go on to take Daniel Bryan because, as you said, Scott, that needs some tinkering a little bit. Yeah. There really isn't that many people. You can only do AJ Daniel Bryan so many times in a row. I mean, God bless them. I love them both. Right. But you got to mix stuff up a little bit. Yeah. It seems like pretty easy to do, and I think either Seth or Finn Brock and Seth Bryan, I think both of those matches would be, maybe not must see, but I would really enjoy it.
I would too. So the big news after the Rumble, our next pay-per-view outing will be President's Day weekend, February 17th from the Toyota Center in, I have to say it because I always perk up the comic guys, the Planet Houston, Houston, Texas, Nate's boy Booker T's hometown. 6-time, or how many times TNA Legends champion. On February 17th, Elimination Chamber. Daniel Bryan will be defending his that welcome mat of a belt right now.
It was so awesome.
It is so great. He's got to love being such a douche right now. He's got to love it.
He's so good at it.
He is so good. For those that don't know, Tuesday night on SmackDown, Daniel Bryan tinkered with his own personal WWF title made of wood and hemp.
And like,
it literally looks like a fucking saddle.
Yes, it's stones instead of diamonds.
Yeah, it literally looks like a fucking saddle. I think it's awesome.
Whoever made that, major props, because it is really cool and really unique.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be on shop.com, but I don't think they'll have anybody make that. You can't really make that in Moss. But and as a matter of fact, I think right now for anybody who has 2K19, I think you could download the belt. I think you could download that belt. So I think it's already on the game. So
that's great.
It is great. All right, so obviously the big news in the last 72 hours, and I think this is going to become a trend now. There were rumors about the Revival wanting out of their contract and going to, or not going to All Elite, but wanting to leave WWE. They feel underutilized, and let's be honest, they are. But now it is evident that All Elite is becoming a possible destination for people because now it seems like Obviously, the news is out, and WWE has confirmed it. Dean Ambrose is gone after WrestleMania. His contract is up at some point in April, and he is not coming back. I'm fine with that, to be honest with you. But now we're hearing about Hideo Itami wanting to leave, or he's going to get released, which sucks because he's been, if you want to talk about a guy that's been horribly underutilized. Having said that, he gets hurt a lot. I mean, he had legitimately in his time here in the company, he's had like 2 legitimate year-plus long injuries. So I'm not saying he's fragile or anything, but unfortunately injuries kind of got in the way of what could have been a pretty good time here. So it's evident now that unlike a few years ago where, let's be honest, a lot of these guys in WWE, they could have left, but, they weren't going to make the money in Ring of Honor. They weren't going to make the money in Impact. They probably weren't even going to make the money in New Japan that they make in WWE. So they kind of sucked it up and, wrestled Apollo Crews or whatever, and took the check and moved on with their day. But now Cody and the Bucks have now suddenly opened this whole new world. A whole new world. And I think you're going to see a lot of this happen. And frankly, guys, I'll start with you, Nate. I think it's good for for WWE and All Elite. We'll start with All Elite. Obviously, they need bodies. There's no doubt about it. You and I ran down the roster on the last show. They need bodies, obviously. So, guy like a Dean Ambrose, a guy like a Kenta, that's big gets for them if this is what ends up happening.
Yeah, there's easily 10 to 15 guys that you can name right now that would be in a better situation, at least creatively, in All Elite than they currently are in the WWE. And I think that this is good for All Elite, but even more than that, it's good for the guys because you're going to see a situation where they have leverage now when it comes to negotiating. And obviously, All Elite isn't a major threat. It's not an equal to the WWE, but it's an option.
Right.
And it's an option that wasn't there before when you talk about Ring of Honor or Impact or even New Japan, because that wasn't always an option for some of these guys. And so when you have something like All Elite and you have the backing of the Khan family behind it, that's big money. And that's something that can get Vince's attention. So it's not going to be an ideal situation for everybody, but I do think people like the Revival could be helped by going to All Elite. Dean Ambrose would be a star in All Elite. Even somebody like, even though he's kind of, maybe sort of getting more of a push now, a guy like Apollo Crews to me would be a star in All Elite. Kind of going back to how he was before, before he even came to NXT. When he seemed to be a rising star and instead of a star that just is staying still and static. And then you mentioned earlier, Cassius Ohno, who to me would be a great fit because if you think about it, he is what all of these All Elite guys were 5 years ago. Chris Hero was Cody Rhodes. He was the Young Bucks. He was Kenny Omega. He was the king of the indies, the hot thing. There just wasn't an apparatus, that it just wasn't an organization that he could go other than the WWE that would use his talent and pay him properly.
Correct.
And now there is. So I think it's a good thing for the business. It's a good thing for the workers. And it'll force the WWE to, maybe make some changes in their business and also maybe make some changes creatively, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this, Steve?
Well, it is ruffling some feathers because there's been reports that this week that I think it was at SmackDown just yesterday, as we're taping this, that they were starting to pull talent aside and have meetings trying to shore up people's contracts and, give some renewals and give some pay increases. So that says that they're concerned about who is leaving, if anyone's leaving. They've shown that they want to just sign a bunch of guys, from the indies who are, bigger players. And even though they don't necessarily have any room for them, but, to see which talent develops and who they can do stuff with. And if not, there's low ends in their contracts. So it's not like they're losing much money by by doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dean Ambrose leaving, even if he doesn't, we don't know exactly what he's going to do. You'd think that he would at least have something to do with AEW, but you might just want to travel around and wrestle all over the place, something like like a guy like Neville, Pac is doing right now. He might want to just take some time off and rest up for a few months to a year. And it sounds like he's kind of like a CM Punk type guy and saved a lot of money. Doesn't need very much. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I asked her, the same report said, I think it was through Meltzer, that Jericho mentioning his contract and saying how much money he was making, it was bigger than anything he ever made in the WWE. Now, Jericho's an expert worker, so, who knows if he was telling the truth or not, but the sheer fact that he said it, got some eyebrows raised from talent in the WWE and probably did scare a few people behind the scenes. I can also just see Jericho just, blowing smoke and trying to get people to leave and come over.
I know. Yeah. I mean, because the main issue here is, in WWE should probably pick and choose their spots, because the roster is so big. Mm-hmm. It's so big. And there's just too many people. It's kind of like what happened in 2. There's even more people now than there are in 02 when they did the first split in 2002. There's even more people now. And not everybody can have a belt. Not everybody can be a champion. You can't have, 50 hemp belts. That's not the way the company works. And some guys are just going to be doing things. And there's not even enough room for that. I mean, I would love, and it breaks my heart, but if he doesn't get a major push at some point, I will be very happy with Bobby Roode going to All Elite. Having said that, Bobby Roode's almost 40. So At this point, does he even care? Triple H likes him. I think you will see Roode as a champion at some point. I do.
Well, we also have to take into consideration that a lot of guys that, like the Bucks and Cody, are doing business with, are their friends. They're people they know. So they might not be, if Cody and the Bucks are the ones doing all the behind-the-scenes wrestling type stuff, you might not see just any random WWE guy go if they don't have a relationship with them.
That's a good point. No, that's a great point, Steve. You're exactly right. So we're going to keep tabs on this, because obviously this isn't going to be the first frustrated people. And this goes for the women. Like I said, I think the women's division is huge right now. And it's a good size if everybody was being used, but unfortunately, WWE just focuses on belt feuds. So people can say what they want about the sleaziness of the Naomi, Jey Uso, Mandy Rose storyline, but you know what? It's something that doesn't involve Ronda or a belt. So what the hell, By the way, on a side note, before we go to break, when I was watching Sunday with my crew, and I'm curious if you guys thought the same thing. I know you didn't, Nate, because you love your girl. But when Nia came out for the men's Rumble, the first thing that my friend, it was actually Johnny Reckless that said it, and he's going to be on our WrestleMania preview, so we can expound on it. Is that what's going to happen? We're going to get Twitter tweets from these groups. How could WWE condone bullying and women getting beat up by men, and this is terrible, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, you do realize that Nia Jax can kick the shit out of 3/4 of the men's roster, right? It's not like they're giving Charlie Caruso RKOs or even Alexa Bliss. It's a woman that could take the bumps and could probably beat the shit out of half the fucking guys that were in that ring at the time. So I just want to point that out, that I saw some tweets, and I said, you guys are all assholes.
And it took like 3 or 4 guys to get rid of her. Like, they gave her the Braun Strowman treatment.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They gave her the fucking
3 or 4
Big Show,
finishers.
Giant Gonzalez fucking...
Yeah.
Great Khali treatment. I mean, come on. Get a grip. Anyway, I just had to point that out. Guys, great segment 1. A great A block. And we'll get more of, obviously, into the intra-roster stuff over the coming episodes as we go down the road to MetLife. Again, we have 2 pay-per-views coming up before that. We have Elimination Chamber in February in Houston. And then in March, we have Fastlane in, where did we say it was, Nate? Cleveland. And then, of course, April 7th, down the pike here at MetLife. When we come back, we are going to tackle history to a certain extent. Brother Nate had the shoe. It's kind of like being at a gambling table. For our next installment of the New Japan Classic Match Picks. And he picked a couple of good ones. Something relevant to things going on in wrestling news right now. And let's just say that Nate and Steve can see my Skype avatar, and it seems to fit. Brother Nate, Brother Steve, Brother Scott, we go to Japan after the break.
Because?
Even in the code.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
PlayStation Nation's Justin Rosero and Chad Kimball here, and we want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlayStation.com, and we now offer them to you on 2 great feeds. On the PlayStation Wrestling feed, we bring you the Mothership, the Place to Be podcast, Main Event, Survey Says, Wrestling Warzone, a Monday Night Wars podcast retrospective, No Holds Barred, Jeff Learns Wrestling, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction shows. On top of that, we're also dipping into the vault, re-releasing the entire catalog of where the big boys play for your enjoyment. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver special network pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is loaded with great content, offering such tremendous shows covering the land of pop culture, such as Geek and Sassy, Talkin' Pop, the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, Sunday Groove, PTBN Play, Freak Out Drive-In, Songs with Friends, Looking Forward, Looking Back, and Lucha Undead, as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans with the hard-traveling fanboys, Sellers Points, Conversation Comics, DC Post-Crisis Management, Marvel Age, and Marvel Age Masterclass, plus weekly pod blasts that cover the gamut of comic topics. The feed is also filled with insightful sports content, including the NBA team, This Week in the NFL, and more.
And you can find all these current shows, plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others available at PlayStation.com. We cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, in-depth stretch projects, and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlayStation.com/Amazon while doing your online shopping. And download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlayStation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Boom, 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 boom. Now tell me what you gonna do, but it ain't nowhere to run. When judgment comes for you, when judgment comes for you, tell me what you gonna do, when it ain't nowhere to hide. When judgment comes for you, 'cause it's gonna come for you.
We are back on Place to Be Nation's main event. This is episode number 119.
It is time for our current installment, the next installment of the main event, New Japan Classic Match Pick. Our first installment of 2019. The Godfather, Brother Nate, you had the shoe, and you had the choice of what 1 or 2 matches we would discuss tonight. You picked 2. And maybe not classic in the relative sense of the word, because these are relatively recent. However, much more of a historical slant, because it involves someone that's trying to make history in the wrestling business in 2019, sir.
Yes, we mentioned All Elite Wrestling in the A block. And, of course, one of the key figures in that venture is one American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, of Arrow fame. And
that's
so...
right.
I figured, we've seen a lot of the Bucks in New Japan, and we've seen a lot of Omega in New Japan, and I'm sure we'll talk about him in a second here. But I wanted to take a look back and see Cody Rhodes and his evolution in New Japan. So the first match I wanted to look at takes us back all the way back, Scott. I don't know if you can look back this far, hop in the Wayback Machine. Takes us back to January 4th. Of 2017.
Yikes! Was there even internet?
The world was a much simpler time than Steve Wille.
Yes.
Oh, man, it was. Donald Trump was our president.
The good old days.
Almost.
Yeah.
He was almost. He wasn't even quite.
Yeah, he was. About to be in there, yeah.
The upset, I guess you could say, depending on your point of view, was not even warm yet at that point. And Sarah Sanders was not settling in her Paul Heyman role.
Remember the days when we had good old Sean Spicer? I miss Spicy.
Spicy. So, yes, we go back to the actual date that we are discussing is, as you said, January 4th, 2017. And what was that, Brother Nate?
Of course, anybody that follows New Japan knows January 4th means Wrestle Kingdom Day, the biggest show of the year for New Japan. And this was Wrestle Kingdom 11. And the match we're going to look at is featuring Cody Rhodes in his New Japan debut, taking on Juice Robinson. I know a favorite of Steve Willie's.
Juice is a favorite of mine. He's making some hay now in Ring of Honor as well. Yep. He got his hustle on.
He does.
You know, when you brought up Cody Rhodes, I was like, because I'm sure I've said it on this podcast before, but he is not one of my favorite wrestlers. I like Kenny Omega, calls him Mr. 2.5 stars. So I think he's got a great mind for the business. I think he's going to be a great producer, but sometimes I believe that he wrestles up to the level of his competition.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see with your second match pick that is the case. But
yeah, because that's why I wanted to pick these two matches, because I wanted to pick a match that was important in terms of his debut, but then also a match that showed kind of how he evolved over the span of a year. And so, yeah, this first match, I've always liked Cody, Steve, but yes, he does kind of have that Randy Orton feel to him, where if he's in there with somebody really good, he can raise to that level. But if he's in there with somebody that's, just kind of average, he'll have an average match.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not to give away the spoiler, not to give away my thoughts on this, but this was the least favorite of the two matches I picked.
You telling me he couldn't get 3 stars out of Lacey Evans? Oh, wait. Anyway, just to give a quick recap before we continue, here was the card that night, Wrestle Kingdom 11, which seems like a long time ago because it was actually 2 Wrestle Kingdoms ago. Michael Elgin, remember him?
Wow.
He won the New Japan Rumble. There was a Rumble that night. He last eliminated Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger. Here is who was in that Rumble.
Yeah, these are these gimmick battle royals that are the pre-show that we talked about.
Yeah. Here was who was in it. Elgin came in at 1. Billy Gunn, Bone Soldier, Cheeseburger, Jushin Thunder Liger, Kobayashi, Tiger Mask, Manabu Nakanishi, Ryusuke Taguchi, Yoshiatsu, Yuji Nagata, Hiroyoshi Tenzan, Saito, and Scott Norton. How did he not get over?
Wow.
That's who was in the New Japan Rumble, and Elgin won it. That was on the pre-show. Here was the show proper. Tiger Mask defeated Tiger the Dark in a Tiger. It was Tiger Mask W. Who actually, you know who Tiger Mask W was? Yeah.
Steve, do you know who that was?
Yes, it was Ibushi dressed up.
Yeah, Ibushi, and he was taking on ACH.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, ACH was Tiger the Dark. Yes.
Yeah,
is that really his name, Tiger the Dark? Sounds like a name Nate you'd come up with.
Yeah, I think it's because I was doing some research on that, because when I saw that, I felt some type of way. But apparently, Tiger the Dark is like Tiger Mask's rival in the comics that has nothing to do with race. But then I was just like, you could have picked anybody to play Tiger the Dark. You just so happened to select ACH. Also, I think that match probably would have been better with just
Ibushi versus ACH.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You had Roppongi Vice, or was it Roppongi? Which was Beretta and Rocky Romero, who beat the Young Bucks to win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Titles. As a matter of fact, Rocky Romero, I think, actually sat in on commentary for our match, I think. I think he came out, or maybe that was during the second match. I don't remember exactly. My favorite team whose name I love to butcher, Los Ignorables de Japón. I love killing that name. That was Bushi, Evil, and Sonata. Defeated David Finlay, Mr. Shea, first name Rico, and Kojima, and the Bullet Club, and Chaos in a gauntlet match for the never open weight 6-man tag titles. Adam Cole, remember him? Beat Kyle O'Reilly, remember him?
Whatever happened to these guys?
I know. A bunch of losers. Adam Cole actually won the ROH World title that night. Chaos, the other rest of Chaos, Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano, defeated the Gorillas of Destiny, which is, of course, Haku's kid, and Tonga Loa, and GBH in a 3-way tag for the IWGP tag titles. Mr. Takahashi defeated Kushida to win the junior heavyweight title. Haruki Goto defeated Shibata, our pal Shibata, who's now retired, of course, because he almost got knocked into next Christmas, for the open weight title. Naito beat Tanahashi for the IWGP Intercontinental title. And in the main event, my man, in 46 minutes and 45 seconds, many considered it the match of the year, Mr. Okada defeated Mr. Omega to retain the IWGP World title. We may have to do that match one day. I may have to pick an Okada pair down the line, because I think we need to talk about that match down the line. But nestled in between my great Los Ignorables de Japón and the Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, whatever happened to those guys, Cody and the Juice. First off, Juice's tights were awesome, by the way.
Real quick, Steve Willie.
Yeah.
I think you'd have a better handle on this than either Scott or myself. At this time with the Bullet Club, is this Jeff Jarrett era Bullet Club, or is Jeff Jarrett already gone by then?
Jeff Jarrett Bullet Club lasted, I think, 2 days. And that's not a joke. Like the Scott D'Amore, I feel like that was Wrestle Kingdom 10. And the only reason that happened was because, and it could be Wrestle Kingdom 9, and I apologize, but the only reason that happened was because that was when Global GWF was a thing for a second.
Yep, 2016. That sounds about right, because that would have been around the time he came back on Impact.
Yeah, and they were the ones who got that shown on pay-per-view in the United States. So because they had that, they gave Jeff Jarrett and Scott D'Amore a little rub. Yeah, this is very, very fresh Cody Rhodes in Bullet Club, and you have and Kevin, who's with Steve Corino on commentary for this match. They alluded to what happened in Final Battle, which was just a couple weeks before in Ring of Honor. Cody and Jay Lethal had a match in which Cody was fighting for honor and was a good guy, and ended up giving El Kabong a low blow to Jay Lethal to cheat and turn on the fans, and then shortly after joined Bullet Club. So this is the start of the Bullet Club triangle of leadership between Cody and Adam Cole and Kenny Omega that ended in a couple months when Cole ended up signing with WWE. Maybe.
I don't see. I went back one on Wikipedia, and I don't see Jarrett's name anywhere. So I don't know if he was actually at the show. I need to
It was the year before. I'm 100% positive.
So you think it was 2015?
It was the one where Jim Ross and Matt Stryker on commentary. Because this was NJPW World.
Yes, no, it was 2000. It was Wrestle Kingdom 9, because the Bullet Club team in the 6-man was Fale, Jarrett, and Takahashi.
Yeah.
Karen Jenno.
What a terrible team.
They lost to Tenzan, Kojima, and Tomoaki Honma. So it was 2015. It was Wrestle Kingdom 9. So it was a year before. I have to admit, I was a little skeptical when we first talked about it, because when we first started, because I mean, Cody was an exceptional wrestler in WWE. I mean, that's established. But I mean, he was facing guys that were not at the level of who he was going to be facing in WWE in New Japan. Now, Juice Robinson, when he was C.W. Parker in NXT
Or C.J. Parker, yes,
C.J. Parker definitely was. Maybe he should have had a wooden hemp belt. But I mean, we all knew that he was being horrendously underused, and he seemed like a good guy. I was kind of glad when New Japan grabbed him in Ring of Honor because he seemed like one of those good. Not a guy like an Okada who's got perfect work rate or whatever, but a good, a serviceable hand that would have gotten some shine. And this was a good. This match reminds me a lot of Bobby Roode's first Takeover match against Almas, where you needed a serviceable guy that would, I mean, it was no secret that Cody was probably going to win this match. You weren't going to have him debut with a loss. And I watched this match, and I had a feeling going in that, like you said, like both of you guys have said, and I think you're both dead on, that Cody's one of those guys that, I don't want to say he wrestles down. I don't want to say that. I know it's right, and you guys are right. I just don't want to say that, but it's the truth. It's not really wrestling down. It's all right. I know who I have in front of me, and I've got to adapt. Instead of, oh man, I know who I have in front of me, I've got to elevate.
Right.
Like there's the difference. So I was a little skeptical going in that this match is going to be a stinker. It was not a ridiculously long match. I think it was something like, I think it was 8 minutes, I think.
I would say about 9 minutes or so.
It's 9.5.
Yeah.
9:37. What'd you think of the pacing, Steve? I feel like that Cody was going to show, I mean, you don't just get the nickname the American Nightmare and just wrestle a boring in-ring match like your dad did.
My dad was good.
Yeah.
Remember, he looked like AWA Vader.
Grandson of a plumber. I was optimistic that Cody was going to bring it. He kind of had no choice. Was Juice a good opponent for him?
Yeah, I think so. I think Juice was a good opponent because it was elevating Juice to a level of a bigger star, and Juice wasn't around that much at this point. After he left NXT, he went right into the dojo and basically started all over with his training. So, this is elevating him from young boy status to actually being a part of the roster, and he's still making that climb even right now. So it was a chance to give him a big name to fight, and also for Cody to make his entrance, kind of like, like beating a jobber to the stars, essentially. There's not many singles matches in New Japan. I also wonder if maybe they were testing Cody out a little bit to see if he can, this is strictly conjecture on my part, but seeing if he could hang in a New Japan style match and not a, WWE TV style match.
Yeah. What do you think, Nate, of Juice as his guy to open?
He feels very much like when WCW would have Clash of the Champions.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good point. Yeah.
And you'd have somebody that you were really trying to get over, so you'd stick them in there with Brad Armstrong.
Yeah.
give him 8 or 9 minutes, and Brad Armstrong would make the guy look good. I think it's funny seeing where Juice is now compared to this match, which again, it's only 2 years ago, and to see his progression has been pretty cool. But for Cody, I thought this match it wasn't bad, but I don't think it ever elevated into anything more than something you would see on like the first 3 or 4 matches on a Clash of the Champions show. So I think that I wanted more character from Cody. He was trash talking the whole match, but it didn't feel like he had his quote unquote New Japan character down yet. But yeah, I think Juice was a good guy to get him in there with.
I thought the match had a good pace. They brawled on the outside. They put some good moves down, threw each other around the railing. But I definitely think Cody was doing his best to elevate. Having said that, I mean, he does do a couple of nice moves. He does like the whole run up the turnbuckle, bounce off kind of thing.
Yeah.
His moveset is not the most intricate catalog in the world to begin with.
Well, and thing is, Cody, I feel like, and it's funny, Steve, because I'm just kind of thinking this now as we're going through the match. If you take this Cody Rhodes and you put him in some of those matches that we've talked about in New Japan from the 90s, Cody Rhodes fits in perfectly there with that style. Like, I think Cody Rhodes in that era is great because he's got enough kind of flashy moves to get by, but he's really kind of more of that old school style. And so right now in 2017, where you're looking at a New Japan that has seen Nakamura and AJ Styles, Okada, Omega, Tanahashi, you've seen the art form of New Japan get elevated to another level. Cody's just not at that level in this match.
And I think that's where it is on the card. You know, that's the reason it is where it's at. It is almost more of an exhibition style match to see if he fits. And it's not like more of a like a main event type match like we're going to see for our second one. It's just given, you know, putting him through the motions and seeing if he works. And, you know, he did all right. And he never, you know, did he do G1 this year? His first year in? I'm looking up right now.
It's a good question.
Not in 2018. I know he didn't. No, he did not. So, you know, obviously he wasn't liked that much, or maybe they just thought he couldn't handle that kind of schedule. But he's just more of a Kevin Kelly when he's on, he calls the guys who just kind of come in like a special attraction. More of a special attraction. You know, he had some spots in there. He had a spot on the next night. Had a couple spots in the beginning of last year as well, but more used in the American New Japan shows.
Yeah, because he was doing that. He was doing I think. Around the same time, you're talking ROH, and maybe a little bit before that, you're talking Impact, the little run he had in Impact.
Yep.
So this was a Cody Rhodes that was just kind of finding his character outside of the WWE. But the other thing to go along with that is his ROH character is a little bit different than what the New Japan fans want, which is a little bit different than what the Impact fans want. So I don't think we really get New Japan Cody until the second match that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, he definitely needed to kind of figure out how this place works. So he wrestled, a pretty decent dashing, mid-card WWE match here. And Juice, obviously, who is a veteran of that style, obviously being in NXT.
Yeah.
They put that kind of match on, and it was fine. Cody gets the win.
I mean, and the moves that, like the crossroads or the disaster kick, like the moves that needed to look good still look good.
Yes, they did. They did. Do you agree with that, Steve?
Yeah, I think so. And I thought Juice brought it too. Juice didn't, he rose to the challenge. He had a great start and did some great selling of some of the, the knee work that Cody was doing. I think Juice stepped it up even more than Cody, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he did. The crowd seemed kind of 50-50, and then Cody apparently jumped into the crowd or something, apparently what Kevin was saying. Obviously, it was a good spot for him because this Wrestle Kingdom was totally, circled around, was totally built around, Okada and Kenny. Yeah. That was the main event. That was the match. The world was watching. Because I thought so at the time that match had a very Hogan Andre-ish feel. And again, we'll get more into that match sometime down the line. But again, it was a good spot where Cody could just get a win, put on a halfway, a decent looking enough match where the New Japan crowd won't crap on him. And that's what he did. That's what he did. So this was a good pick, Nate, because it was just a good template of nice, straight up Cody, kind of getting his feet wet in a different kind of place. So I enjoyed it. Crowd was hot too.
Yeah, and I think Steve said it.
Crowds always are.
I think Steve said it best off the top. Perfectly fine, 2.5, maybe 3-star if you're feeling generous kind of match.
Yep, exactly. We're feeling really generous though about this next match. Any final thoughts on this match, Steve, before we move on?
No, just that 2 years later, we saw the rematch for the U.S. Championship.
Yeah, and I think that was a better match.
Yep.
Yeah, well, both guys firmly had their feet planted in how the New Japan worked, so no doubt about that. However, our next match had a ton of shit around it, and it was very entertaining.
Yeah.
And the build was great. It took place on October 8th. Well, set the scene for us, Nate. It's your match.
Yeah, October 8th of 2018. So just a few months ago. This was the IWGP heavyweight title match. It was a 3-way match between Cody Rhodes, Kota Ibushi, and Kenny Omega. And this was at the King of Pro Wrestling show.
Mm-hmm.
And this match it's funny, like what a difference a year makes, because we see not only do we have like the reunited Golden Lovers, which like anybody that remembers last year, that was one of the big talking points in terms of kind of your hardcore wrestling fan last year, was the Golden Lovers. And I enjoyed everything about this match. Like the in-ring action was great. The storytelling to me was excellent. And then the commentary, we had Kevin Kelly, we had Chris Charlton, and was it Rocky, the third man?
Yeah, this was the match. Rocky came in here. All right, yeah, I'd said that earlier. I remember Rocky came in one of the matches. It was this one.
Yeah, and I thought all three guys on the desk did a great job, kind of adding to what was being given in the ring.
To give us the rest of the card, on this evening, we had no pre-show matches. Suzuki Gun defeated Liger and Tiger Mask to retain the junior heavyweight tag team titles. Liger is Liger. Tiger Mask in this case was Yamazaki, so the actual Tiger Mask. Great Bash Heel, which is Togi Makabe and Tomoaki Honma, defeated Taguchi Japan, which was actually Juice Robinson, and Toa Henare in a tag match. In an 8-man tag, Bullet Club OG, which was Fale, Bad Luck Fale, Haku's Kid, Tanangaloa, and Taji Ishimori defeated Bullet Club Elite, which is, of course, the Bucks, Hangman Page, and Chase Owens. In an 8-man tag, Chaos, which was a 6-man team. It was Tomohiro Ishii, Hiroki Goto, and Will Ospreay defeated Suzuki Gun in a 6-man tag. A lot of tags here. Another 8-man tag, which included Chaos, which included actually my man, Mr. Okada, Toru Yano, Yo, and Sho. Against, I can say it again, Steve. Los Ignorables de Japón. Which was, of course, Naito, Sanada, Bushi, and Takagi. Another 8-man. What other promotion can give you not one but 2 8-man tags? What is this, fucking WCW 92? Evil and Zack Sabre Jr. ended in a no contest. It has no time. Did we know what happened there? There's like no time in the match. Did it not happen?
This is actually a card I have not seen yet.
Oh, okay.
It was where I actually left off in my watching when I had to skip ahead to the Junior 4th show.
Okay. So for some reason, there's no contest, and it doesn't have a length. Kushida defeated Marty Scurll to win the vacant junior heavyweight title. Tanahashi defeated Jay White, speaking of Switchblade, for the Tokyo Dome IWGP Heavyweight Championship Challenge Rights Certificate. What the fuck? Sounds like something Impact would do. I'm going to hang your driving permit above the ring, and belts. Okay. And then, of course, our main event. Now, again, as we've said, Cody has now been kind of entrenched for a good year and a half. And at this point, he's been bouncing around. Don't forget, he's got 2 belts already. He was trying to make like unprecedented history here. Like we're talking, Ultimo Dragon territory of hanging belts off his neck.
Yeah.
He was already the NWA champion. He beat Nick Aldis at All In. And he was the current IWGP, I think he was a U.S. champion, or was he the Intercontinental champion? He was one of the 2 secondaries. I think he was U.S. champion.
He was the U.S. champion, yeah, the NWA champion, and I think it was it the 6-man tag?
The open weight?
Yeah.
The never open weight 6-man? I think he was. But he only came out with 2 belts. And then, of course, you have Ibushi, and then your champion, Kenny. I was legitimately excited going into this one, Steve. Like, I felt good now about Cody settling in here.
Well, Ibushi is one of my favorites. And the storyline with Golden Lovers was probably my favorite storyline of the entire year in terms of in-ring. So there's already an interesting dynamic with Omega and Ibushi in the ring against each other. And you saw that several times in the storytelling of the match, which is what makes Omega Ibushi matches, whether they're a tag or against each other, so compelling to me. Mm-hmm. And we're coming off the G1 where Ibushi made the finals and ended up beating Omega in order to advance to the finals. So there had been talk of Omega and Ibushi needs to have the rematch for the title, but then Cody kind of got in there, and Kevin and Chris Charlton before Rocky came on really explained, and this is my belief too, in outside of the ring, how manipulative Cody can be, kind of sticking his nose into something to get himself over, which is kind of what he did in the Bullet Club. If you think about it in real life, he leaves WWE and gets himself involved in the hottest group in the profession.
I know, right?
And it also in the match you saw a couple times, and it was translated too that like, hey, Ibushi, know your role.
Yeah.
I'm the champ right now. This is not your time. So there's a lot of compelling story completely separate from the physical parts of the match,
right?
Which is why, a match like they had with the against the Bucks was so interesting earlier on in the year, and it's a lot of people's favorite match of the year. Just great storytelling, and Cody is just the one to kind of stir up all the shit, and has with Ibushi and Omega since he started.
What were your thoughts, Nate, going in to watching this about chemistry, knowing that now, as we talked earlier about Cody's lack of Japan seasoning, now we're looking a year and a half later. Were you feeling a little better?
See, I'd never seen this match before. And so when I was looking for a secondary match, I wanted something that, again, tied into All Elite, because we got Cody and perhaps Kenny down the line. But then when I saw Ibushi was a part of this too, I'm like, yeah, I think that's something that might be pretty good. And I knew Cody was better, just because having seen him recently. I knew Cody had gotten better. And I wanted to see, like Steve said earlier, when he's in there with top flight competition, he can raise his game up. And I wanted to see if he'd be able to keep up with the Golden Lovers. And I thought just the dynamic of it, where you've got the hierarchy between Ian and Ibushi, and then you've all the reluctancy to strike each other at times. And you got Cody playing this interloper, which is, and again, WWE could do a lot to kind of watch this match if they do end up making what I think should be a one-on-one match between Becky and Ronda into a three-way with Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
If they can have a story that is this compelling, then I think that'll be great.
Yes.
So the way that Cody was interjected into this match was great. And so then when you had Kevin, I knew Kevin was going to be there. I didn't know Chris Charlton was going to be there. And I thought Chris Charlton and later Rocky added to an already great presentation. So
I agree.
All the surroundings, all the atmosphere was set up. They just needed to deliver in the ring, and I didn't have any doubt that, at least 2/3 of the match would be able to do that. And then Cody stepped up as well.
Yeah, that was the thing, because now you're dealing with, at least if you're Cody, you're dealing now with, you went from Juice. I mean, for our first match, we went from Juice, who's, he's good. He's not the greatest on the planet, but it's, he's solid, to arguably a year and a half later, we're talking probably two of the 5 best workers in the world. So yeah, here's Cody with a legit chance to shine. I like the match, just to kind of I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this. To get a frame of reference here, I watched All In. I liked his match with Aldis.
Yeah,
I know it was very NWA feeling, and obviously that was meant to be. It was for that belt. So Cody has gotten the experience to be able to shine on a big stage rather than just be a mid-card guy.
And that was my favorite match on All In. Like, it wasn't technically the best match, but I thought in terms of storytelling and the performance of both guys, it was my favorite match.
Yeah, I have to agree. I was my favorite match too. So, Steve, were you feeling more confident, at least knowing that he's going to get in? And we talk about, being elevated. I mean, we're talking about two arguably of the 5 best guys in the world in the ring with him. 3-ways are not easy. We've watched a gazillion of them in WWE history. Some are really good. Some are pretty fucking bad. But at least for Cody specifically, you had to have been feeling a little positive knowing who this time he was going to be with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I had no question that this match was at least going to be above average. So I was incredibly excited to watch it today. And then, when you had mentioned, before we went on air earlier today that you really enjoyed it, then I got even more excited. So, and it lived up to the hype I had in my head. This was, like we said, when Cody gets into the ring with people who are really good, he can step it up. He raises his game, and I enjoy storytelling in matches, and it's not just necessarily, work rate type stuff where, hey, you work the leg and you stay on the leg. This tells a story that had been going on for a long time with the relationship between Omega and Ibushi, not just as tag partners, not just as friends, but, always insinuated that it's more than that. And Cody trying to sneak his way in to break up the relationship, to grab the belts, and like you said, it's got the reluctance to hit each other.
Yep.
And then when Omega does kind of, not above cheating to win matches, and when he would try to sneak in and get stuff done, either Cody would double cross him or Ibushi would catch him, and that, towards the end of the match when Ibushi is just like, you know what, the hell with this, I am mad, right. You screwed me over. This is enough. And just seeing Kota really underrated in terms of his expressions. There's a great moment in the build to the Ospreay match a couple months after this match where Ospreay basically reverses out of a super run and ends up on his feet, and Ibushi turns around like, what just happened? And he did that when Omega pulled the ref off to prevent him from counting 3 when Ibushi had Rhodes beat with the Kamigoye. And just to see his face as he turned around and be like, no, you're not doing this. And then Omega is just profusely apologizing, and the emotion in between the two of them was just great acting, and led to those vicious pound strikes and punches, and just the whole match broke down and went to the crescendo.
Yeah, we always talk about matches having gears, at least good matches having gears, and we get 3 separate gears. Like, we get the first opening 5 minutes or so of the match where everybody's feeling each other out. We get the great hug at the beginning of the match. Then I think once we get to the powerbomb spot on the outside, where Kenny power bombs Cody through the announce table. And we get Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton. oh shit! Like that got to pop out of me. So that's our next gear when we get to that gear. And then, like Steve was saying, when we get to the third gear is when Ibushi's had enough. And he just goes to town. And from there we go home. And I thought even the little things, like I think we had that little spot at the very end where first Cody First he goes to grab a chair. And the crowd boos him. And he puts the chair down and they cheer him. Then he grabs his belt and he's going to hit him with the belt. And the crowd boos. And so then he throws the belt to one of the Young Bucks and they cheer. And then he gets the chair twice then because he gets the chair at the end. And he brings the chair in, and by that time I think the ref stops him and the audience starts laughing. And it's a great little comedy spot, but it's not a trivial spot. Like it actually adds something to the match.
Yeah, like I'm a son of a gun, and I've been evil to these guys so many times, and I'm just evil to the core. But I've kind of made up with them over the last couple of months after we've been attacked by our original BC, the OG BC guys. And so, I got to play it right, but I don't want to. And
it was kind of like Piper at WrestleMania 8, when he picked up the bell and people were like, no, don't go back to that Piper. And, I dug that. Ibushi's just one of those guys. Elicits such emotion from a crowd. He's starting to slowly move up my list of guys I like. And he's just fucking great in the ring. That stuff doesn't amazing. That doesn't have to be said. That's just there.
It's crazy for somebody that good to be underrated in a sense. And I think the only reason he's underrated is because for a large percentage of the audience, before the Cruiserweight Classic, I think a lot of Americans didn't know him.
I didn't. I hear his name passed off between like you guys and Chad and Sheriff Pete and stuff, but I honestly had no fucking clue who he was.
Well, he used to have, Scott, the most ridiculous comedy matches you've ever seen. Like some of the live watches we've done where they would, and Kenny was involved in one of them too. They'd fight in a campsite for over an hour.
I was gonna say, didn't they have like the haunted house or something like that? Like
all sorts.
The Wyatt compound match just done better.
Yeah, there was one where he was in an apartment complex and he'd walk up. We did a live watch of that too. Yeah, there's just some crazy stuff that that he did, and did a lot of comedy, and he's kind of marches to the beat of his own drummer, and we really haven't seen him since January 4th show. So I don't know if he's taking some time off, what's gonna go on with him, if he's it'll be interesting to see what he does.
Yeah, I mean obviously a lot of guys are took off after the Wrestle Kingdom. The time of that match, because the New Japan, the clip on New Japan World was over an hour, and I'm like, fuck. Seriously?
What is this, the Women's Royal Rumble?
I know, really. Jesus, I gotta go to work. But the actual runtime was I can't even see. I can put my glasses on. 34-13. Most of it at the end had to do with Tanahashi and the because obviously it was setting up at that time for the match that happened in January. As Tanahashi had the I guess you could say the Japanese money, the yen in the bank. But right, is yen Japanese too? I guess it is. And of course that set up the match at Wrestle Kingdom. Of course Tanahashi won the belt.
Yeah.
So that ate up like the last fucking 35 minutes of the clip. Well, because the whole respect thing at the end where Kenny would not get up and do his speech until he knew Ibushi was okay after he hit the one winged.
And that was a great finishing sequence too, because we had the reverse Hurricane Rana, and then he hit the driller on Ibushi, and then he kicked out, and you had that one last hope spot for Coda. But then
I was surprised Coda took the fall.
Yeah, I think he hit him with the V trigger and then the one winged angel, and again, like that's one of the things I like about Kenny is he can be flashy, but something as simple as the V trigger gets a reaction and response.
Mm-hmm.
because it's been built up.
Okay, just so I don't play totally dumb, the heavyweight championship challenge rights certificate is actually their Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
All right,
it's the same exact thing.
Because that's what Tanahashi, I guess he put the briefcase up against Switchblades, a.k.a. Jay White, and that was the match I had mentioned. That was before this.
That's what he gets for the
You don't know, Scotty, and Steve would know this, of course. The way New Japan's titles are set up are kind of like the old prize selection that they used to do on Wheel of Fortune, where they just show you a bunch of stuff. You're like, okay, I'll take the open title. Let me get the North American title, and I'll put the rest on the gift certificate.
That's old school Wheel of Fortune.
There you go. Woo-hoo.
Like, why wouldn't you just put everything on the gift certificate? Just give me the money.
Yeah, you need that ceramic Dalmatian. Man, we're gonna really lose some of our audience right here.
Yeah. A copy of our home game. And the 81 Ford Pinto. Datsun hatchback. Remember back in the day, it was like you're watching the Showcase Showdown, and you're like, I'll pick the first one, and then you're like, here's China, and you hear Johnny say, brand new Chinaware, and you're trying to look at the guy's face like, fuck this shit. He's trying to be happy, and you're waiting for, come on, Johnny, say a new car, and next is a jukebox, and you're like, I guess. And now,
what's cute about that, Scott, is you're saying that as if I didn't watch The Price is Right on Monday.
I know. A new car, and you're like, yes, a Buick Skylark. What great days. We'll be talking about game shows and that on the Year in Pop, the new series with myself, Andy Atherton, and the guys.
Oh God, I can do that all day.
Oh, Steve, your day will come.
Yeah, I can talk game shows all day long.
Oh, we'll get you in. When we start talking more about the late 70s Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, yes.
So anyway, there you go. So anyway, of course, Kenny won and retained the title, which you would, of course, lose at Wrestle Kingdom just a few weeks ago to Takahashi.
And he loves Cody, and he loves Cody's dog, too.
Yes, he does. And, of course, 2 weeks after this match, Cody would actually lose the NWA title back to Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis is champion again. So, great 2 matches, Nate. A good template of how Cody has grown as a wrestler. Is he still is he like an Okada class? No, but then again, who the fuck is? Is he better than he was in the Juice match? Yes, definitely. Yeah. He's definitely felt that way. Have you kind of begrudgingly given Cody a little due, Steve, after watching the triple threat or the 3-way?
Yeah. There's some stuff that he's done, and one of them I don't even want to get into, that he did with Ibushi earlier I think it was earlier in the year, or maybe 2017. But again, it depends on his opponent. I really did like the All-In match as well. I liked the build up to it. I haven't seen the second one yet. But then he also had a match with Omega at WrestleMania that I think it was at Mania. Yeah, it was at Mania weekend. That was kind of underwhelming, surprisingly.
Yeah.
So, he can be all over the place with me. I am intrigued as to how much what he's going to do and how he is going to now essentially book himself in All Elite Wrestling. And it depends really on who's going to be on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think Cody's biggest strength is if there's a story, he can latch on to that. Like we saw in this match, and like we saw in the match at All In. Like I think he's gotten better at becoming a storyteller in the ring, but he's still not going to be that guy you can just throw out there without any prior knowledge of the backstory between the two guys and expect to get invested in a 30-minute match.
Right. No, I agree with that. I agree with you. All right, Brother Nate. That was awesome. 2 tremendous matches.
Yeah.
I was very happy. You may now pass the shoe to Brother Steve. You're up. We're back to the top of the order. This is all you, brother. So in a month, episode 121, we expect a good show. We expect a couple of good matches from you. I'm looking forward to your choices, where you're going to go.
I have 2 different directions I might go in. I have one. I talked about Kota Ibushi being one of my favorites, one of my man crush wrestlers. I was thinking either my second man crush wrestler or doing a couple more current matches that have a little interesting twist, not the normal matches. So we'll see what I decide.
All right.
Expect 2 Toru Yano matches.
No, yep, that's exactly correct.
Couple of bad luck, Fale. I know what you guys are thinking. I'm going to get a Los Ignorables de Japón when we get to my matches, but I don't know if I can say that.
Steve's going to give us a retrospective on Jeff Jarrett's time in the Bullet Club.
Scott D'Amore.
Scott D'Amore. Who got fatter. All right, but that is in 2 shows from now. Coming up
Jeff
in 2
Jarrett,
weeks.
by the way, one of my favorite spots during Royal Rumble weekend.
Uh-huh.
Both at the actual Rumble and then on Raw. I was like, you know what? Good for you, Jeff Jarrett. And he got a job out of it. He's working backstage. So who would have thought?
You could trust you. I think Jeff Jarrett could be trusted. And I think because I think we're going to need a little good old. I think I could see the current roster needing a little bit of some good old Southern storytelling. So good for Jarrett. I think that's a good thing for the company. And him and Road Dogg are tight. So
yeah.
I could see Jeff going over to SmackDown and him and Dogg working together. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think that'll work out well.
Like the last 5 years of Jeff Jarrett have been ridiculous. You talk about Global Force and Impact and the alcohol issues, and then you go to him getting inducted into the Hall of Fame and then showing up at the Royal Rumble, and now he's got a job with the company with the guy who said he never worked there again, who he held up for money.
I know. Isn't that amazing? All we need to do is get Lex Luger a job, and all will be right in the world. So coming up in 2 weeks, we'll return with episode 120. We'll get more into the news and notes from around wrestling and see if there's any other walkouts or rumored walkouts and see if All Elite will bolster their roster. And then, gentlemen, in the B block, we will go to, speaking of Jeff Jarrett, September 25th, 2002 for weekly TNA pay-per-view number 13 as we continue our trek of our continuing saga of the classic TNA pay-per-view recap. Jeff Jarrett's in the main event of that show. Yes, he is. And oh wow, we got a lot of stuff here. Oh man, I don't know, Steve. I know you always say that your eyes start bleeding halfway through these shows, but there will be matches involving Six-Pac, Scott Hall, and Brian Lawler.
Oh God, Brian Lawler.
Yeah, avoid the tryptophan for that one.
I'm going to go get the Drano.
So join us in 2 weeks for episode 120. We will have our next installment of the classic TNA pay-per-view recap, and we'll talk the news and notes from around wrestling as we get closer to the Elimination Chamber coming up on February 17th. We'll talk some New Japan, too, if anything pops up. For Brother Steve and Brother Nate, I am Brother Scott. You've been in the main event. I hope you enjoyed the Rumble. Stay warm out there wherever you live, because I'm sure it's cold somewhere, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Hey, Steve Willie.
Yeah, hey, Nick Milton. What you got going on?
You know that I spend my day working hard on the go, but these hands on the clock keep spinning too slow, because I can't wait to be alone with Nia Jax tonight.